You
I
can't
have
get there.
chosen, see, I have chosen a hot pink auditorium for this scene.
Okay. Are you seeing us on the big screen?
I'm seeing you at the big screen, yeah.
Wow, man, this is something we should have been there then. Yeah.
Next time we'll be happy to host you, or Manish will.
Oh, absolutely. Anytime. I think we can have everybody invited there.
मनीष, हमने पहला पीवीआर बैंगलोर में जब खोला था कोरामंगला में, तो लाइसेंसिंग की इतनी वाट लगी हुई थी, बड़ा टाइम लगा था. तो राजकुमार, who is a big actor of South India, and we had the CM of Karnataka, पूरा हॉल भरा हुआ था. जब ये तुम्हारा PXL है ना जो सिनेमा,
करेक्ट
वो पिक्चर चली, सारा हाउसफुल है, पिक्चर चली, सारी एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन बैठी है, उल्टी चली थी.
Yes, I heard this story as well. I mean, it's amazing how things start off and how they can grow.
So guys, we are already live, and
sure.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. A very warm welcome to Global Annual Women Economic Forum 2021. Today, we are discussing on OTT-led transformation of the media and entertainment industry. It's my pleasure to introduce to you today our panelists. We have on the panel Mr. Ashish Singh, CEO, Laika Productions, Mr. Manish Gaur, Chief Business Development Officer, PVR Limited, Mr. Tushar Dhingra, Founding CEO, Disham Cinemas, Ms. Jayanti Devarajan Iyengar, Director, Black Ticket Cinemas. So today's moderator for this session is filmmaker Mr. Rajiv Menon. Welcome you all to this wonderful discussion, and we are looking forward to it. Over to you, Rajiv.
Hi, all of you. Welcome, women on if I'm on the economic forum, and I think all of you in your get-togethers and your parties in the last couple of years may have been saying, talking about films. But in the last couple of years, how many films have you recommended, or how many films have you trashed? That number, slowly seems to be changing, and you seem to be talking more about the series. But when it comes to, the Paisa Vasool movement, you still want to go to the theater and see the big stars fighting good over evil and singing their songs, and, villains flying all over and all this kind of stuff you seem to really enjoy. Or it's the Marvel comic strips which have been now made into such successful films internationally. But what's causing this change? Why are we seeing more of series? Why are we talking about it more? And we seem to be binge watching these series long before COVID came in. And one of the startling factors that we noticed is that people are seeing Korean films, Mexican series, and back home in India, you're seeing a lot more people, seeing Malayalam films, Telugu films, and Marathi films. And it's just going across. You're not watching just English and Hindi, you're watching all kinds of films. Now, I'm trying to figure out why it is. Is it just because you're sitting at home, it's cheaper, you don't have to pay? Is it because the cost of the theater experience is going too high? Or is it because the kind of stories that are being told in this are more real? It's not cardboard cutout, really good hero versus the evil villain, but it is actually about some kind of, gray characters fighting gray battles. I mean, is this the reason why it is? Or is it because the kind of audience that you're watching individually and not seeing it in a big theater with lots of people and whistles and, paisa being thrown? What is causing this difference? And why are we sitting and watching these series? Will this alter filmmaking? Will it completely affect the way films are consumed in the theater? Will it change the way people write it and make films or act in it? And will the industry completely change? As some of the, questions that are going to be thrown up. And we have a fantastic panel here. And we have people who are right in the firing line, like the chief of PVR, who is probably facing the brunt of COVID and also having theaters to worry. And then we have somebody who headed Netflix and also was in the thick of things with Yash Raj Films and Balaji Telefilms, who's now heading Leica. And then we have somebody who was in the gaming industry, but now doing Dishoom Films. And so you can see that films are thriving. And then down from having your own OTT platform and creating special content, we have Ms. Iyengar also here. So we have a whole bunch of people who are really inside it. So we're going to have Manish and Ashish and Tushar and Jayanti all speaking about what they think individually are about it. And then we'll have a kind of collective audience session opened out. So over to you, Manish. You're the man on the firing line for all your theaters. Will theaters survive? Will films do well? What kind of content are you creating? So the floor is yours.
Thanks a lot, Rajiv. First of all, thanks for inviting me to this very power-packed gathering. Talking about a very relevant subject in today's time. I think, the first time I got invited on this, I was a bit surprised because you were talking about OTT-led transformation. And then you get a guy from the theaters to say, hello. I mean, it's like, I'm taking the brunt and you want me to be there on the session, which was surprising. But I think it is certainly considered as of now, and when we go forward, you will realize how the difference of opinions get formed. But it is certainly considered right now a reasonable threat to the business of cinemas. Nevertheless, I think it's a great opportunity to talk about this incredible growth story of what I in cinema industry what like to call as disruptive phenomena in media and entertainment space. There is absolutely no doubt that the OTT has seen absolutely phenomenal growth, worldwide, but I think more so in India, which is more relevant market for us. There are very rarely you find businesses which have grown at, upwards of 30% CAGR in last couple of years. And this is something what you call not a normal disruption of a business, but something what we call as almost like an accidental disruption, which has happened. And I say it accidental, because the fact that it is not so much by design. The way we look at it is that it is not so much by design, but it's a perfect storm which got created over the last 2 years. And I can tell you some of the things which, we have seen and we have kind of analyzed. I mean, obviously, the first one was the whole thing was accelerated due to the pandemic forced lockdowns and restrictions which happened worldwide, and more so in India in last during the first lockdown and the second lockdown. Most of the offices are still closed, or if they're opening, they're partially opening 3 days a week, etc., etc. So it gives quite a lot of time for people. It gave no other choices for them to be able to use, and therefore it created one of the main reasons for the OTT growth which happened. I think it also got wings due to the launch of very fast and cheap internet services by the telecom providers in if you see last 3-4 years. I mean, just to see how this has been driven is Jio, for example, the telecom, it went from almost 194 million subscribers in 2016 to 680 million by 2021. Now, this is not something which would have happened in normal time. If the same event would have happened, let's say in 2010, 11 or something, I don't think it would have created the kind of, the wings which it gave to OTT business to grow. The third thing which is happening, and I think we'll attribute, again, a significant part, is there is an explosive growth of smart connected TVs, again, which is a very recent phenomenon. So again, if you look at just the sheer numbers of, what we saw, the smart connected TVs have grown from 5 million, and they are projected to grow to 33 million in next 2 to 3 years. Now, these are obviously, some of the obvious things which you say is providing quite a lot of impetus for the growth. This is also coupled by affordable subscriptions, which are introduced by the new entrants which are coming into OTT space, etc. And also, I think, and one of the data which I'll share later on is also because one of the largest markets for mobile devices in India, right? And therefore, everybody has a screen in their hand, which again kind of gives an opportunity for everybody to be able to log in at whatever time they want and kind of take it. So I think these 5 factors which we zeroed in as the key factors which have what has created this accidental disruption, that is the reason I called it. And if you see, without taking any credit from anybody, if you see the OTT and the statistics of the business, and I'm sure Ashish will have more updated and the right figures, but whatever we can gather from the reports, etc. I think currently India, if you see, has got around, it's a 35 billion market with 500 million subscribers, plus minus, like I said. I mean, I'm not vouching for the authenticity of this, but it is based on the reports which we get. However, if you see the growth of internet users is pretty much stabilized to around 8%, which means quite a lot of this disruption, what we are seeing is actually coming from the mobile, business, etc. So in last 1 year, what we have seen last 2 years, actually, we have seen almost 75% of Indians, they got into new subscriptions, spread across various platforms, including the ones which were regional. Obviously, it has been led by the international players, but I think quite a lot of regional players which have kind of come in as well. And if you see the growth which is projected, so India is actually poised to become, among the top 6 OTT markets by 24, if not ahead, if this kind of, the growth continues, because it is certainly phenomenal. But what is interesting is that the average time which was spent by the Indian subscribers earlier to this pandemic was just around 20 minutes, which went up significantly during the lockdown, mainly because of the lack of any other choice. And you were lapping virtually everything. I mean, you can't lock down a country for almost 4 months, and not expect them to do anything else but actually watch, the programs which they like and the movies which they like, and obviously the content which was flowing in from all over. So just to put the things in perspective, we believe Amazon Prime and Netflix saw an increase in subscription of almost, ahead of 65, 70%, kind of things which happened just because of this period, which is again, super normal growth as far as we are concerned. However, what is interesting is that, most of the people, actually, if you see, only 30% of the people we have seen prefer watching movies on the OTT platforms. Rest, everybody is looking at the long-term content or the long-form content, as we call it, basically series or even mini series and things like that. But the movies as such, if you see, is just around 30%, according to the data which we have. And 87% of the subscribers consume this data or the content on the mobile phones. Now, that is again interesting, which is also, corroborating with what we were saying, that it is still a small screen phenomena which we are seeing. I mean, obviously, we see with the smart connected TVs growing up, the size of the TV is getting larger and cheaper. Obviously, there is going to be a shift for sure. But as of now, this is where it stands. And if you really see whether it is the normal way of looking at it, and this will continue. I mean, just one small statistics we saw last week was that the screen time, which was earlier around 20 minutes, which went up to around 70 minutes, is already down to 40 minutes a day, which means that there is a bit of rationalization, which is already, kind of setting in. Ashish, I hope you will have the latest data and you can, kind of corroborate it. But this is, again, like I said, that from various sources we've got. So obviously, we are seeing that there are very large players who are involved. They are who got this perfect opportunity to kind of get into the country, look at how they can grow the business. But we also believe that even the largest players are already starting to see slowing down of the new subscriptions, which is again an indication of saying that, look, the Indian market, is kind of reaching a place where perhaps it is not going to continue the kind of fast growth which you saw. And one of the things which is also there is that I think it has grown mainly because it has also been quite unregulated and unrestricted. I mean, you can actually show whatever you want, and quite a lot of people are developing content which is, pretty massy, with absolutely no censorship, so to say, or regulation on what they are showing, which makes it interesting. However, we expect that this will get regulated in future. I think there are already quite a lot of voices which are saying, so once you get, because currently, if you see from our point of view, the cinema point of view, this is a media, it's not going through the scrutiny which a movie does before it gets released in the cinema. right? So once you have those kind of censorship, for the lack of a better word, comes in, perhaps you will see that quite a lot of content might just get kind of pruned down and maybe more regulated. While the streaming giants also have deep pockets, I think my experience, and before PVR it was with retail, India has surprised actually many international players in terms of sustained growth in this country. You start off very well, the initial few years are great, and then it kind of start plateauing down till the time you reach a stage where you don't know what hit you. We are not saying that that should happen, but we are saying that, look, that is something which we can watch out for. These are the challenges which OTT has yet to see. And I think once the restrictions are over, life goes back to normal, office is open, you get back by around 8:30, 9 o'clock. Perhaps the only time which you have is just to catch up after dinner, maybe one episode of something. So again, the viewership might see a bit of change as we see in the normalized business scenario, which is not a. I'll not go into the details of the models, etc. I'll leave that for Ashish to discuss. So I'll come down to straight away to how different cinema versus OTT is what we are saying. So before the pandemic hit, we were selling actually 1.45 billion tickets a year. Now, the minute the pandemic hit, that went down to zero. Now talk about disruptive effect of an event. And I think that was the biggest disruption which the cinema industry has seen. And we are still dealing with it. I mean, it's not that it is over. Every day you still have restrictions. Maharashtra is still around 50%, quite a lot of, it's the biggest market in the country for cinema, still are going through its own challenges. But we believe on the other side, India is still very under-screened country. I mean, currently, if you see, we have just around 9,000 screens compared to 50,000 for US, with 1/3 the population and around 75,000 for China. So there is still, we believe that there is a very long, journey which is still ahead for cinema business, which is to be there. And with reach of mobiles and faster internet, there is absolutely no question on the growth potential of OTT. But the question is that, when you look at it from versus cinema, what is the main perspective? What I personally think, and what I think the industry guys think, and maybe Tushar will also, kind of echo when he's speaking, is that the theatrical business actually rests on another level. I mean, basically the theater business thrives on what we call the collective energy of audience. So when you are sitting and watching a movie in the theater, it is not only you who's watching a movie, it is actually the whole audience which is with you, who's sharing all the moments which are happening. And that is quite like a sporting event which is being streamed. So while it is great to see a match on TV, but watching it in a cinema, watching it in a stadium is a completely different experience. And I think that is something which will still continue to play out for quite some time to come. And it's been said quite a lot of time that India basically thrives on cricket and cinema. And I am sure that that is not going to change very quickly. I think we like our heroes larger than life. We like our songs and dances, and we, which is quite unique in its own way. So I think it will be a bit early to kind of write off cinema and just to say that, look, while it is a very disruptive event, but the question is that does it lead to, if you see really survival of one of the medium or the other. We like our family and friends outings, and there is a complete lack of public spaces. So whenever you want to go out as a group, you'll most probably end up going to a cinema and ending up in a mall than any other place, because just there are no choices available. It is also still the cheapest form of entertainment for people. There are not many places where you can spend 3 hours in an absolutely fantastic environment, completely get, transported to another world, and yet it does not cost you an arm and a leg like it does for quite a lot of other places. So from our belief, we think that it will be an additional choice for customers. And the larger thing which will play out between the two, OTT and the cinema, will be the convenience versus experience. And it's a convenience of watching something whenever you want it, wherever you want it, versus the experience of actually going out and being part of an event, which is quite entertaining, collective, and things like that. So I think the experience will become a differentiator as we go forward. We also believe that the content will also see a split. It is not only from the point of view of customer, but the content will see a split. You will have content which is driven by storytelling versus larger than life, big screen experience, and those two I think will kind of find their own way. I mean, it's like the water find its way. They will find a way. But at the end of the day, the success of the movies and the stars is still measured in the the box office collections. So while Netflix can come out with so many movies, and Prime can come out with so many movies, the content can be taken. The way it is that you still manage to see what is the collection from the box office, which decides the success. And I think that is not something which will change overnight. So in my view, when you look at everything, I think there is no case of a binary view. I think it's wrong to look at it in a way that whether one stands in front of the other. I think it is not cinema versus OTT, but it is cinema and OTT. And I think both will develop over a period of time. But at this point of time, one can safely say that the life is not going to be the same for all the players who are in this space currently. So I think it's going to be very interesting, and there is certainly a transformation which has happened. But let's see how the story unfolds.
I think it's very interesting what you're talking about, Manish, because I mean, for somebody who's handling so many theaters, you are actually quite adept with the numbers of the opposition in that sense. But it is clear that in 1970s, when television came and they said that cinema is going to be dead, and then you needed Spielberg to come and rekindle large audiences back into the theater. And that was pretty much said this when Doordarshan came in and serials became popular, people said the same thing. But cinema always had a way of bouncing back. And so I'm sure that's the case. And because if that was not the case, I don't think Ashish would have left Netflix and joined. He would be sitting perfectly in things. So here we have somebody who has done the whole biz, started in Yash Raj, gone to Balaji, as well as headed Netflix. And he definitely believes that cinema has a future. Otherwise, he wouldn't be heading like us. So over to you, Ashish.
Thanks, Rajiv. Thanks for having me here. And Manish, you really spoke very well about everything, and you are bang on about OTT and theaters coexisting. So I kind of totally agree with it. So let me discuss the OTT phenomenon first, based on what my understanding is and how it's going to change things. So let's see it first from a consumer's point of view. Let's see it from a creator's point of view, and then let's see it as a business. So clearly, from a consumer's point of view, what OTT has done is you can see content anytime, anywhere, in a medium that you prefer, right? So if I'm on a flight flying to Chennai, I can watch the latest episodes of Money Heist on my mobile phone. So that clearly cinema cannot give me. And that is, I think, the differentiator between OTT and cinema, big time. As a consumer, I can be sitting alone anywhere. I can be watching content, like Manish said, from Korea, from Japan, from Latin America. While I was at Netflix, I got to, obviously got a lot of insight about how Indian content also travels. So there's a animation show called Mighty Little Beam, which is animation show only pertaining to young kids between the age of 2 to 5 years old. And the beauty of that content is that it is silent. There's just sound. Mighty Little Beam is there, and he's like tumbling and all of that. This became a worldwide phenomenon. And in India, nobody's aware of it also. Because, I mean, for us, it was just Little Beam, and you've seen him on other platforms, other channels. But worldwide, in Latin America, everywhere it was being watched. So that is the big difference with OTT. It can actually take your content to 190 countries. You can subtitle your content. You can dub it. We are clearly seeing what is happening to Money Heist in India. We've seen what has happened to Squid Games in India. Yeah. I mean, day before yesterday, I was walking down in my compound, and there were these kids, 7-year-olds, wearing those Squid Games masks, and they were playing the games. So that's the impact of content. And definitely OTT is adding to it. I mean, from our point of view, we have the theaters, so we will have the Suryavanshis of the world, we'll have the next RRR, we'll have 83, and they all will do well. There's no question about it. But as far as OTT is concerned and the consumer is concerned, it definitely adds a lot of value purely from an international content point of view and a differentiator in terms of genres that you can play with. So when we talk about differentiator related to genres, then let's talk about how it impacts the creative talent. So when you are making a film for the theaters, you have to keep certain things in mind: length of the film, interval point, little formula of songs, this, that. But when you're creating for OTT, you don't have to keep any of that in mind. You can just make anything that you want the audience to see. It could be very different from what you have done in the past, because you're not guided by box office. You're not guided by a producer who's telling you, okay, for a marketing, we need an item song in the film. We need 5 songs because I want to sell my music. So that's the difference. Even on the web series side, you can have very realistic shows, true stories, biopics, without really, worrying about censorship. And by censorship, I'm not saying that we should encourage vulgarity or nudity or any of that or bad language. What I'm trying to say is true stories, authentic stories, where you can actually show the truth without worrying about who's going to object to what in which part of the world or which part of India. So that definitely is an added edge that a creator gets on OTT. And finally, from a business point of view, so this entire discussion about OTT versus cinema, I personally actually laugh at it. For the simple reason, today as a producer, I cannot make a film and monetize it without either of the two. So if somebody tells me your film will only come on OTT, oh my God, where's the theatrical business? How will I make my profits? Or if somebody tells me, okay, your film will only release in the theaters, I will say, oh my God, I mean, that's a big revenue that I'm losing out on. No doubt, during COVID, there were a lot of original films there were films that were stuck and they couldn't release in the theaters. And a lot of the producers could, kind of wriggle out by selling them at a premium. And at that point, what we are forgetting is that the OTT platforms also didn't have their own content because shootings had stopped. Post-production was not happening. So even there was a huge demand by the OTT players to buy that kind of content because they had nothing. I mean, today, if you had a ready film with a reasonable actor, you wanted to show it on your platform to keep your subscriber base going. And clearly it was growing, like Manish is saying, that OTT definitely had a huge, splurge in terms of subscribership during COVID. But still, to sustain it, you had to have content. And content was only available through ready films. That's why there was a plethora of films that were made for the theaters, but actually finally came on OTT. And the producers were happy because they definitely got a premium. The OTT platforms were happy because they got content which was not available even on the original side or web series because there were no shootings happening. Definitely the theaters lost out on it because those films didn't release in the theaters. But there are so many films ready now. Once everything opens up and once COVID goes, we clearly already are seeing the release rate of films that are going to release in the theaters. So there's no question of every week there's a film now, so those same films will be fighting for business. Coming back to OTT platforms, they also don't have the money to buy that many original films. Let's be very clear. They have deep pockets. So if Netflix has officially announced that they have 2,000 crores over a period of 2 years to invest in content, a lot of it is content that's licensed. So when we say licensed, these are films that release in the theaters first, and then you release it on Netflix or Hotstar or wherever, Z5 or wherever, as a digital play and then on satellite, and you get it at a lesser amount. So a OTT platform cannot be paying you premium money for each and every piece of content. They have a limited budget for each country. If you're talking about the three big, Netflix, Amazon, and Hotstar, so they have an India budget. They have to play around that. So keeping all these things in mind, clearly they will not be able to repeat buying original films for their OTT platforms. And those films will have to first release in the theaters. And then after 4 weeks or 6 weeks or 8 weeks, they will come on that respective platform, whoever's licensed it. So therefore, as a producer, both are equally important. OTT is definitely important from a revenue point of view. It's a guaranteed pre-sale. You know that money is coming back. But without a theatrical release, there's no way you can really recover unless it's an original film where you've been given a premium. But the premium can also be only that. You can't really get a huge premium and make a lot of money, which a great blockbuster can give you, clearly. So the premium is also capped up to a certain point. No doubt it's guaranteed, which is a good thing. During COVID times, it was a great thing. But now, going forward, I don't think you're going to get that premium. Even as actors, like Manish rightly pointed out, no actor, given a choice, will want his film to be a direct-to-OTT. So even while I was at Netflix and my experience with other producers and other creators and other actors and other platforms, clearly, if they had a choice, they would have waited. Actors would have put pressure on the producers to say, no, please, I signed up as an actor for your film to release in the theaters. I don't want my film as an original on your OTT platform. Because at the end of the day, the subscriber base is only that much, right? Let's not talk about how much is what, because some of it is obviously a secret. But you cannot reach out to 40 million people with a blockbuster like, say a Sultan or a Tiger Zinda Hai or a Suryavanshi, maybe a little lower because of COVID in terms of numbers and seats filled in. But still, that would have been the number had it released during normal times. Where do the actors make money from? Endorsements more. Not just movies. How do they get endorsements if they have a fan base? Where do they get the fan base? Not through OTT. OTT can just create some stars. So like we saw Scam. So you created a star there, out of nowhere. Probably he wasn't, with all due respect, maybe he wasn't getting a role as a lead actor. He did this and he's a great actor, so now you have a star. But you can create small stars through OTT. But the big superstars are only created through theatrical releases. That is very clear. So keeping all this in mind, given a choice, a creator, an actor, a producer will definitely prefer a theatrical release. There's no question about it. As a consumer, I have a choice of watching certain content on OTT, certain in theaters. And again, like Mani said, I mean, I'm a guy who has a family of 2 kids. So for us, the best outing is to go and watch a film. You know, even now, we can afford to go anywhere, but still, we all film buffs. We like to go and watch a movie. So we were the first to go and see Suryavanshi first day, first show. And I was so glad to see so many other kids in the theater. So there's no way theatrical business is going for a toss. Yes, OTT is very important. OTT is very important for a creator. OTT is very important for a consumer. But both theatrical business and OTT will survive. There's no question about that.
I think that's a pretty clear kind of understanding that what OTT has done is created another source of revenue which competes with that of satellite revenue. And we have seen different streams of revenue coming in at different points of time. There was a period in the 1950s where Hindi films were shown in Russia, and Raj Kapoor and Awara was such a huge hit. And then subsequently, even during the Amitabh Bachchan phase, all over Egypt and everything, Amitabh Bachchan films ran. And then you saw that number shrinking as our subjects became more marriage oriented, and we started catering to the NRI Indians, and we had more money coming in from England than the NRIs and whatever the Pakistanis, Bangladeshis were watching the song and dance films, which was all based on movies, and it was spreading Indian fashion and stuff like that. And that sort of opened up. So the audio business went up, the audio business went down. So you have the continuous movement of various sources of revenue which keep going. But revenue is one aspect of it, but I think somebody like Tushar, who's coming in as a producer, would have a different view on what are the opportunities creatively as a producer, and what can you do with the medium, and what are the new kinds of films that you can sell. And by the way, even the kind of numbers that you're seeing on YouTube for something like aspirants, just some people, as India hurls itself towards urbanization and Instagram and people wanting to get more famous and cricket stars and film stars, and only that, that bulk of India is actually sitting and writing UPSC exams or trying to get into IIT, and when you make series about them, the numbers they get are so high that even Channel 4 wants them on board. So India is not Bombay. India is not Bandra. India is much bigger, and much bigger India really wants to study and move up on the social ladder. And I think Tushar will be able to give us an insight into how to make films without those 5 or 6 Khans or those people who live only in Bandra, and what are the options of telling stories? What other kind of stories can you tell? And what does larger India want to see on whichever the medium may be? So as a producer, how do you see this? What are the opportunities?
Thank you, Rajiv. One correction, I'm not a producer. Dishum is about cinema business. This is an upcoming new multiplex business. But that's fine. One part you should know, Bandra has only one theater. It's a single screen cinema.
Only guilty. Yeah. I think you got some multiplex in Globus in that.
Yeah. It is now. It was taken over by Satyam. Satyam is now joined hands with PVR. So it is a PVR cinemas now. Very good looking cinema. It's done in a European French style sort of a thing, and it's my neighborhood cinema in Bombay because I live in Bandra.
Me too.
Going back to,
I do live in Bandra. So.
Same here. So currently I'm in Gurgaon, and that is where I'm speaking you from. Okay. I think I have few, the topic says OTT-led transformation. I think Manish and Ashish have spoken about 2 sides of it, that it's not a binary choice. I agree. I think there are 3 kinds of transformation that has happened. One is people who are OTT subscribers have been exposed to a global level of content. Hence, they have become far more nuanced, they have been far more exposed, and there has been a generational shift in the kind of audiences that are there today. So would you as a filmmaker or anybody else would tap into that or not would matter. Without taking names, you would see a lot of blockbusters with big names have landed in duds. Prolific directors of big names who've had great music scores, had big blockbusters, have not been able to relate to or tune themselves to the current audiences. I think that's one thing that will be something interesting to see in the coming time, how this visual experience is going to be built on. So that's one change. The second transformation, according to me, is today actors like KK or Manoj Bajpayee, or as he said about Scam, talent is getting far better exposed in terms of there is a far, the distribution side has opened up new avenues. One basic root or the bloodline of our business is great writing. I think for the very first time, our colleagues in that space are being looked up. They're being paid well, a lot better than what it was earlier. I think what Salim Javed used to have a number at one point of time in their lifestyle, today we have many of those happening. And there is an industry that is blooming. So there is an irrigation of money that is giving you better production quality, that is getting you great, writing community, which is getting, built on. And obviously our culture is going out. I think that is something that is happening. So that is another transformation that is happening. So that exposure and that interchange is another part of it. I'm from cinema exhibition business. I think we all are trying to do is, can we get you to this house full of happiness where you come in and you feel, and you forget about your, woes of life. And, you get enthralled by a comic scene or an action scene or a dramatic scene. And I really, really second what Manish spoke about, that, filmmakers produce something. If I watch Bombay on a phone, or when I watch it on that screen, Rajiv, the difference is what my, the guy sitting on the next, seat is saying. We all are collectively adding to that art form. It's like a jokes, read on a mobile phone or spoken in a space. So I think that bit is there and in place. So these are some transformations that are going to stay. One thing is very, very clear. If I give you a book, and we all, if we are readers, we have bought many books and we have left them in between. A lot of time that happens. It has happened with our movies. It has happened with us on space, on OTT, stuff, etc. So that will stay. Being in OTT does not really mean that you are producing great content. If Ashish can tell you the numbers, the viewership will depend on the quality of delivery and nothing else. I can't pay you even to watch a movie. So that would remain to be true in my head very clearly. And I think it is an additional revenue stream. As you said earlier, overseas rights came in, then music rights went up, then broadband rights came up. It's just about another stream getting added. It doesn't appear to be binary because of the social reasons and the space that we are at. We're gonna feed each other for sure. And we're gonna build from there. One point I want to say, any OTT-led release that happened even at COVID time would have miserably failed theatrically. Tell me one which would have been succeeded. And I'm not saying it because I'm prejudiced, but we producers are very shana. We know our product, we know what to do with it and how to go about doing it. So that's where it is, I guess. And I think last bit is we all have started valuing our time a lot more. And in every sense of it. Today, the lives we all lead are, bombarded by a variety of things, messaging, phone calls, whatever. One great thing about coming to a cinema hall is you get a digital detox. you get a vacation. You get that vacation of sitting here and enjoying it. It's like dressing up for a date, right? So I like that. I do watch a lot of OTT, but I would do the, I would go with those HBO specials 10 years back too.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, Rajiv, you would have watched Korean movies when VCDs were there too. So there are seekers that are there. This is great. It is democratization of entertainment, which is fabulous. As consumers, it's fabulous. It's not an either or.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. And what you're talking about, because, I mean, the aura of the movies is something else, because, as the music industry struggles with trying to make money, there's no CDs to sell. Their situation is far more acute,
Yeah.
and it's YouTube views. But majority of the, singing stars are really making money from gigs which are going live. So live music is still so important. And if people can just listen to the headphone, then why do they go for a live gig? Because we are by nature tribal. We like to gather. Why do people go to the Kumbh Mela? Why do people go to places? God is the same. You can say the same for God. You go to Tirupati for a reason. People go together and they feel better. I'm sure we do that. And as you said, the theaters are so important, and the sense of dressing up for the occasion. And what better person can we get with a company name called Black Ticket Cinema? Because the importance of a hit is always said. Black mein 1,000 rupees mein gaya, sir. Black 700 gaya. So
Absolutely.
Black Ticket was the indicator of how big the hit is. It was not about how many tickets were sold, because nobody knew. There was no transparency. PVR is bringing some transparency. We still don't have transparency in Tamil Nadu. You don't know how many tickets were sold. So the only indication is how much black was sold. So on that idea of how much black is there right now, they are also, the company is founded by Prabhu, and you are having all you guys into trying to making your own OTT regional stuff. And with Black Tickets, may happen, may not happen, as more number of theaters are there. So I'm trying to see how a young woman who's heading something like this would look at it. So Jayanti, you tell us what you are seeing this from Black Tickets point of view.
Rajiv, I'm actually the odd woman out here, and I'm on the other side of the table. So I hope end of the session, all men are not going to hit me.
No, please.
I feel I'm already on a thrashing, receiving the thrashing from all of them. So,
but the entire audience is largely women. So 50% of India is women. So
that gives me the comfort, actually. Interestingly, you started with Black Ticket Cinemas. So the reason why we named it as Black Ticket Cinemas is we never wanted to have a black area in that. We always wanted to be either, we want to clear the gray area and the black area in that. When it comes to OTT, there are a lot of things which people talk about, but there's one interesting thing about OTT is that I'm sure, Ashish, Tushar, and Manish would definitely agree to it that when it comes to distributors and the producers, there is no transparency in terms of how many tickets sold or how many people have come. It's always about the box office. So as far as the OTT platform is concerned, we have a live console and we give the distributor and the producer and the filmmaker that transparency as to how many people are currently watching the movie. And that live console also supports the multi-dollar currency. And sitting here while I'm watching the same cinema, somebody else can also watch the same cinema sitting in Japan or Singapore or Malaysia by paying in their own currency. So that kind of transparency is what we want to bring in. And also one interesting factor is we thought there are a lot of people who are not actually able to bring their cinemas into the public viewing platform. Either there is YouTube, where the monetization is so very low, or there are theaters where they can't afford or they can't go to those theaters and get their movies released. So when we're talking about this,
I think it's a Wi-Fi issue. Is Jayanti going to? She's frozen in time.
what I have heard from people and what I read at places is YouTube is the biggest multiplex of India.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And it has endless aisles.
Yeah.
And what you could do there and what you can do, and the education and aspirational India, it's really a boon.
Yeah. I mean, the kind of number of people who are watching the series are incredible. And,
I can just add to this point about YouTube. I mean, even at Netflix, when we used to do a research as to what people are watching, at home, YouTube is one of the biggest competition for OTT. And
It is.
apart from that, there are games like Fortnite. So a game like Fortnite, which is played world over and consumed by all kids of different ages, that again is a very huge competition. Because see, at the end of the day, you're looking at time that a person spends in front of a screen, right? So whether it is YouTube, whether it's OTT, or whether it's a game for that matter, gaming itself has become so big.
So Jayanti, we momentarily lost you. So we try to entertain with filling up for you. Now go ahead.
Correct.
I'm sorry about it. So while I was talking about the OTT platform, I just want to highlight that what we are bringing into the OTT platform is creating an OTT platform is as easy as having a cup of popcorn, like how Tushar is having it right now. So in less than 60 minutes, we can create an OTT platform, and that's what we want to bring onto the table for all those aspiring filmmakers and all those people who are actually interested in bringing their content to the audience. So when it comes to OTT, it's always about what I feel, in my personal opinion, it's the content which is given to me in an engaging manner, which is very, very earthy, realistic, and gripping. So that's what I like about the OTT space, and it is one platform which has given a lot of identity for the upcoming writers, producers, and filmmakers, and they've got the opportunity to experiment with the storytelling and explore the full potential of a script, giving the audience a plethora of content that could never see the light of day on the big screen. So today, the OTT space is full of content that is varied and multilingual, giving the audience a chance to experience stories like never before. So when it comes to, yes, of course, pandemic has definitely paved way for all this. But I would not say it is only the pandemic which has paved way for it, because of, from a 21 billion US dollar industry to a 120 billion dollar US dollars, this industry has definitely been growing in a speed in which even a deep-pocketed e-commerce platform cannot grow. Even it took more time for Amazon to grow to that space. So it is because of the accessibility. Another reason I would rather put it on the theaters is because if I have to take Bollywood as an industry, there are about 750 to 800 theaters across Tamil Nadu as a state. And if we have to take the number of movies that's getting produced in a year, it's about 200 to 250 movies probably in a year. And in that, probably only 30 or 40% of it gets the theater releases. So rest of the movies either get outdated, and the producer the producer is suffering because he doesn't get the theater releases that happens on a timely basis. And so those kind of movies, wherein the leftover movies, which is either not with high-end budgets or not made by a renowned writer or a director or filmmaker, or maybe not having the top-notch actors, those movies are actually getting lost in this. So those movies actually get a right platform through OTT. So they are also able to monetize. They're also able to get their identity, and they're also getting their own set of recognition in the media and entertainment industry. So I feel OTT is definitely playing a major and important role in terms of identifying, handpicking, and bringing them to the light. Those talents are definitely brought into light because of the OTT platforms. And OTT is also evolving with it initially started as a subscription-based video on demand, and in order to absorb the cost, it came up with the advertisement-based video on demand, and now it is hovering towards pay-per-view and transaction video on demand. So it is definitely changing by time. And if I have to look at OTT from 2 years, 3 years down the line, so I would rather say that the space like metaverse
is definitely in cards for the OTT platforms. Where I know the OTT play, all of us, probably even the OTT players, like all stalwarts like Netflix and Amazons of the world, will probably somewhere have to integrate themselves in the with the virtual theaters in the metaverse, where the next generation is expected to spend a lot of time, and we can anticipate the merging of physical and the virtual world in the metaverse, and metaverse plays like a Decentraland or something. And also Facebook entering the virtual world is creating a lot of space and scope, and it is actually enabling the OTT players to migrate themselves from the current existing platform and upgrade themselves to get into those platforms and integrate into the virtual world. So I see 5 years, 10 years down the line, yes, definitely the movies and the theaters and the OTT platforms will definitely coexist. While watching movies on theater is an experience, while watching this movies in the virtual world and having a different sort of personalized experience is more of a comfort and passion, is what I would feel. What I would like to register that it's going to coexist definitely, as all of them said.
So I think we have Nidhi has come back. So I think it's she's indicator of time running out. So I think your voice is muted.
I'm sorry. I think you have 5 more minutes.
Okay.
So you can
So
carry on.
Yeah, I think just to sum up what we have all been hearing, and I think it's pretty clear that there's going to be coexistence of OTT and film, and you'll have the big screen pull for the big entertainment, and it's a family occasion, and you're going to see this happening as audiences become selective, as tastes become varied. You've seen this happening in the audio. Audio is an indicator of what things are going to happen. And you're seeing today young people listening more to Korean pop. I mean, the K-pop phenomenon is really fueled by what Tushar was talking about, YouTube. And seeing those kids dance is what was pulling people in. It's not even a language that you can understand. But that means that the audience is looking for a wide variety. All of Europe suffered so much from the Hollywood onslaught, and great industries like the Italian and French industry were saying that we are being swamped by this big budget marketing. But today, you have Money Heist coming in from Spain. You have, Narcos coming from Mexico.
Ozark coming from Germany.
Yeah, and you just find the quality of the production from these countries, and more important, data. I mean, it was pretty evident that you're seeing a lot of people who were watching House of Cards, and they also found there was a lot of people who were watching Downton Abbey. So if you're saying people liked politics and they liked British royalty, so then that makes sense for Netflix to fund $100-200 million on Crown. So this kind of data analytics, because you know how much the person is watching, when he's binge watching, when he's going away. That data didn't exist in films, because if people didn't like it, they went out for a smoke. But now you exactly know where it's going down, and that kind of data analytics makes you kind of feed into the production chain that there is possibility and option. And as he said, Chota Beam, which was being put on all the time when you were feeding children, is now a global phenomenon. And we must realize that we are the greatest soft power exporters. So when you go to Cambodia or Philippines or everywhere, you find the Ramayana and Mahabharata and the Puranas there. So we have exported a lot of stories around the world. And then there was this big period where we were only making films for the NRI. I think our time has come, and we should be going back to projecting Indian values in music and our storytelling to the world in our own unique way, be it with songs, and there's nothing to be ashamed of. Because I think we are the only country which said we never worried about Hollywood coming and taking over the Indian film industry. The Bollywood and Mollywood or Collywood, all of it survived pretty well. And that's because our filmmaking is so unique and our theater going experience is so unique. And I think we should be proud about it, just as we're crazy about cricket and test cricket is still watched in India. I'm sure we're going to have a great time watching movies as well as series like Patal Lok, which is so real, and watching something as fantastical as Game of Thrones or as dark as Squid Games, as people go more and more into debt, and world over people are going into debt and they can connect with it. So you're seeing a globalization of content, and you're going to see localization of production, and you're going to get the best talent from all over the world. And just one little note, I run a film school, and I had people, coming in from various parts, and I interview them on the net, and I'm trying to ask somebody from Sirkakulam, what is the film that he really liked and why is he joining the film industry? So I expected him to say Bahubali. And somebody said, actually, I saw Kumbalangi Nights and I want to become a filmmaker. There's no way in Sirkakulam a Malayalam film can release and somebody can see it, There'll probably be 20 people in the theater. And that means that you're getting an audience all over the world, to watch your content. And that opportunity is something phenomenal. And I guess we're now open for questions if there's any time.
There are no questions on the chat.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we are being
Very popular
deliciously,
folks.
we are being deliciously boring or incredibly lucid. We can assume either one of the two. That there is absolutely bewitching. Our talk was so fantastic that everybody has had enough of it and they're going and eating their, they found their dinner more interesting than worrying about the metaphysics of what will happen to OTT or what will happen to filmmaking. But in the end of the game, it's storytelling. So Shakespeare only wrote, plays. He didn't write novels because there was no printing press. And therefore, Gutenberg's printing press was really paved the way for the novel, and industrialization paved the way for things like Great Expectations and novels to come up. And so also net smartphones and smart TVs and mobility are really paving the way as we consume stories, and we will continue to cry and feel strongly about some characters. We'll continue to root for the underdog, and we will continue to see the other side of the dark side of the villain and try to understand why it goes this way. And we have a great tradition.
Rajiv, sorry to interrupt. It's time for me to announce the awards and take the session over.
Okay.
Because we have only a couple of minutes left.
Yeah.
So it's wonderful to have you all with us today. And it has been a very insightful discussion where at least I have discovered that the boundaries are becoming very, very thin, how things are merging, and especially Korean serials as well, which are becoming super popular with the kids in the next generation to, different, and how digital, development in the digital world has changed pretty much all the marketplaces, from finance to theaters, movie making to cinemas. Everything has changed. I think we need to look more in depth as to how to find new ways to adapt to the new lifestyles in the changing world which is there today. So thank you so much, all of you. And so it's now time to announce the WEF Awards. Women Economic Forum confers upon Mr. Ashish Singh the Exceptional Leader of Excellence Award. Congratulations, sir. We honor Mr. Manish Gaur with Exceptional Leader of Excellence Award. Congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
We confer upon Exceptional Leader of Excellence Award to Mr. Tushar Dingra. And Women Economic Forum honors Jayanti Devarajan Iyengar with the Exceptional Leader of Excellence Award. And again, we present the Exceptional Leader of Excellence Award to Mr. Rajiv Menon.
Rajiv.
So congratulations, all of you. Big applause. So thank you so much. The awards will reach to you digitally via email on over a fortnight. That's how it'll be. And
thank you very much for hosting us, Nidhi.
What?
Thank you very much for hosting us. Rajiv, was great to put, all thoughts together and summarize it. I think it's a great chat to be, with understanding the entire dynamics of the way the OTT is playing out.
So actually, I was happy listening to the full session, the way it was going, all of your views. So it was quite insightful, actually. So it was fun also to listen to the other side. Yes.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you very
much,
much.
all
Thank
of you.
you.
Have a good night.
Have a good
Thank you,
night.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.